And today, really talking through some of my thoughts with respect to why manufacturers should go direct to consumer, and really how fintechs can help in that process. Um, Before I jump into those thoughts and perspectives, I think it's important to just set the context of what is hoolah all about. As Vincent mentioned, we're a leading omni-channel BNPL or buy now pay later ecosystem player in the region, and I guess our ethos is that we create mutual value for merchants and shoppers through um, a concept that we refer to as responsible affordability. This motto is focused on responsible spending, and it's driven by what we provide on a technology and education basis. So what does it all really mean? What do we provide? We provide a flexible payment solution for consumers to get the product up front, but only pay a fraction of the price and spread the remaining amount over the course of 3 months. This is with zero interest, no processing fees, no hidden fees, no surprises in that scenario. For merchants, it's about driving their key marketing metrics, really, when you think about it. So it's, more customers and loyalty from those customers, higher conversion, increase in basket size, and doing it by providing this seamless BNPL option. We launched hoolah back in 2018. We just recently celebrated our 3-year anniversary post-launch, and we're active right now in Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. We're launching soon in Thailand, Korea, Philippines in a more rapid succession, and then we're looking at Taiwan, Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam later this year. Over the last 12 months, we've seen some pretty massive growth. We had a total transaction volume growth of over 1,500%. That GMV side of things is I think roughly 800% growth over the last year. And at this point across the region, we work with over 2,800 online and in-store merchants, with the largest breadth of those lifestyle blue chip merchants on our store directory. So how does it all work? Quite seamless. This is a view of our e-commerce checkout. You choose your favorite product. You quickly create a hoolah account in a few steps. You add your payment method, and that's it. The rest is all automated on the back of that process. You don't have to do anything specific in the e-commerce checkout because it's fully integrated to the retailer's existing e-commerce checkout flow. In-store is slightly different. You use the hoolah app to scan a QR code in a physical retail environment. And at that point, you of course, when you download the app, you create the account, similar type of details collected as you would in the e-commerce environment, scan the QR code and check out that way. Post that purchase, everything can be managed through the app, all your future repayments, the notifications you'll get all of that stuff via the app to just kind of manage it, whether or not that transaction was online or in store. Now, with that understanding of what it is that we do and what buy now, pay later is about, our business model, just to jump back into the core topic of today's session, at least from my perspective, why manufacturers should be going direct to consumer and how this digitalization is going to pave the way for that. The way that we looked at it was, in the past, there were certainly barriers that prevented manufacturers from going direct to consumer, largely on the technology front. And the three clear challenges that we saw was, one, there was a lack of accessible channels that allowed them to reach consumers directly. The last mile delivery piece, that last leg of delivery, was really deemed too complex to a lot of companies and their management teams. And of course, consolidating timely and direct payments from end consumers was a massive challenge because there's this involvement of a reseller or mediator in the middle. These days, a lot of this has already been solved for, right? There's this acceleration of digital. D2C is essentially leading the future because digital technology has transformed the supply chain, the information and data flow, the flow of money, and the logistics flow of that physical product as well. So everything is much more streamlined these days. It's a lot of automation. It's all typically integrated into a single platform as well. We've also seen that the general acceleration of e-commerce creates a D2C channel where manufacturers now really do have that direct access to customers. The technology side, logistics ecosystem, and automation. Again, D2C businesses can get that last mile efficiency. They can really get frictionless experience for the end consumer to get that product in a timely manner. And of course, near and dear to us is the proliferation of fintech solutions, which enable better financial operations and more efficient money flow across the supply chain. Manufacturers can kind of consolidate that end consumer payment with the help of fintech providers. Throw ourselves into that mix. With hoolah, of course, we, along with other different type of providers, can offer that fully seamless integration for merchants and manufacturers that want to go D2C. Largely that tends to be e-commerce first, but even if that was in a physical environment, that could be accomplished as well. So what are the benefits as we lay it out of going direct to consumer? I think to really appreciate this, what we've done is just split this between the value for manufacturers and the value for consumers. Now, starting on the left with manufacturers, there is an end-to-end ownership now of the customer experience. For good or for bad, you're on the hook now to deliver that amazing customer experience, and you get the upside of owning the engagement with the end consumer. It means a live view of how your business is performing. You get live feedback directly from the end user, and it's not really through an intermediary. If you're launching new products, you go to market really quickly. You get to launch it, you get to push it out, roll it out, and it's not so much about getting, again, that person in the middle to accumulate inventory and then ship it out. Of course, in Vincent's preface earlier is that D2C did extremely well, and while products were moving phenomenally well during COVID in the last year, for a lot of B2B transactions, that profit margin didn't really get the upside. D2C definitely benefits from this. Of course, because you're getting supported now by direct market insights, call it just better access to data, right? To put it bluntly. If you own the customer, you own the data, you get the better insights, you can make better decisions about your business in a more timely manner as well. The other bit is around brand. We talked about the customer experience and owning that. By owning the customer engagement and experience, you have an opportunity to now build a brand with those customers. You can engage them directly at a deeper level. You can create loyalty. You can get that customer voice directly into your business strategy, because they're no longer just buying a single product. They're kind of buying into your brand at the same time. There is a bit of benefit through leaner inventory management, because again, if you're getting this high quality data, you're getting the direct insights into what customer demand looks like, you can hopefully forecast a lot better as well around that when you come back to your manufacturing. And the last piece here is around the working capital management and how to make that more efficient. Consumers are paying you directly upfront. You're getting that settlement usually within a couple days from the payment gateway side, instead of the typical 30 or 90 day on a B2B engagement. So hopefully that gives a good view of some of the clear benefits for manufacturers in the D2C model. On the consumer side, I think it's interesting as well, because we see this shift in consumer behavior and preferences, and even call it brand premiums that get attached these days when it comes to D2C. I saw a recent report actually that came out, something along the lines of consumers being willing to spend up to a 30% premium to go direct to a brand, partly because of the brand value. Definitely there's some of that. There's a little bit of authenticity aspect of it as well. It's something that we kind of skirt around sometimes, but getting access to that guaranteed authentic product, it turns out, is getting customers more and more willing to pay a little bit extra to get that. So that's definitely a clear upside for the end consumer. Now, there's also the ability to choose more products if they go direct to consumer. There's the cost element. You can essentially pass some of that cost on, or cost savings on, directly to the end consumer if you're saving from foregoing some of that platform position. Again, there's all the efficiencies of getting the product, directly to the consumer as well. And this last bit, the personalization, customization, there's some work to be done, definitely from a manufacturer side to capture this, but there's an opportunity that gets created at least to be able to capture some of that engagement, the better customer experience potentially. It's not just, hey, you're buying X from a platform, but you're trying to get this product from this brand, and we're going to make sure that that buying experience is exceptional for you. Cool. All right, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about fintech specifically. How companies can really use fintech to get access to some of the things that can really help D2C manufacturers. And it's something we were chatting about just prior to the session starting. I'd focus on this data part a lot, because getting access to better, more high quality data from fintech partners is a very clear way that going direct to consumer can help a manufacturer understand those customers better. We touched on it earlier. The example that I gave is that from hoolah's perspective, at least, we're able to collect certain data points that a retailer isn't really in a position to do, or they'd have to incentivize a consumer really heavily to be able to do so. So we can actually report back to a retailer at an aggregate, PDPA consistent level, information about their customer base, roughly the age range and things like that. That's going to be a lot more accurate than proxy measurements that a lot of retailers use today. Of course, we talked about the working capital aspect of it, being able to get paid or settled from a fintech player directly rather than a platform is always going to be faster. Even on a 1 week settlement time frame, if you're just starting out, a lot of payment gateways will have that kind of time frame. It's still going to be more efficient than waiting 30 or 60-day terms to receive payment from a platform. There is also this interesting idea around managing payment accounts directly, or maybe managing payment methods directly. In a lot of ways, going direct to consumer gives you the flexibility of that platform that you invest in to choose what type of payment methods you'd like to see available. If you're using a third-party platform to sell, you're kind of bound by their ability to have those payment methods available to all of the sellers on that platform, right? And sometimes platforms tend to be quite protective of that space, whereas as a manufacturer that goes D2C, you can make that call yourself. This is important for my business. For example, you're selling into Thailand, for example, you see an opportunity with a localized payment method. Malaysia, FPX, you want to get bank transfers up and running, you can go out, make that happen pretty quickly overnight in some cases, rather than waiting for that platform provider to be able to give you that capability. So there's a lot of flexibility that comes with owning this, but it means, and I'm kind of alluding to it where I'm going to wrap this, but there's a lot of upskilling required, right? Traditional manufacturing business, those typically aren't the skill sets, folks that understand consumer payment methods on a geo by geo basis and can make a strategic view on which payment methods, negotiate those deals directly. Generally, you're relying on that platform to provide all of that. So there is a little bit more homework to be done and planning to be done around this, and some skill sets that come into play to do that effectively. So it's fintech in general. I think there's a bit of overlap with ourselves, hoolah as a business, and how we can position or support manufacturers that want to go direct to consumer. I think the working capital becomes a super obvious place. If we're selling directly to a manufacturer, it's just this really effective use of cash, right? And availability of cash, which then could be reinvested into growing business, into inventory, into manufacturing, into R&D, whatever needs to be done to help the business grow in a more immediate manner. The more interesting one, and I think that's kind of obvious across all fintech, the more interesting one I think that's really particular to ourselves is that ecosystem that we've talked about, like the hoolah ecosystem that we're building. What is that? we've got this great store directory on our website. Turns out hundreds of thousands of customers visit it on a monthly basis, right? Is that an interesting way for a brand new direct-to-consumer manufacturer to get exposure? I'd like to think so, right? So we can help create some initial traction even for somebody that's going down this path for the first time. Hey, let's leverage the hoolah store directory, get your brand out there, help you reach consumers. And that's just, you know, scratching the surface. Could we do a direct EDM to the, you know, entire hoolah base? Maybe not to the entire base. Let's choose a relevant customer slice that we can now announce that, yeah, hoolah is working with XYZ brand, traditional manufacturer that's now going direct to consumer. We can help get that message out there where we think it's a relevant customer segment. Of course, there's the inherent benefit of our platform, which is increasing conversion and the basket size, of course, making the product a little bit more accessible to customers that are looking at it. That ecosystem that we talked about earlier, it's one that is kind of this virtuous cycle, right? We've got this growth that's fueled by merchant penetration, we call that merchant and manufacturer penetration. So we get these merchants on board, we're getting consumers adopting and using it. We're getting support by our partners in the ecosystem, whether it's a Shopify or whoever else that we partner with, to help really build out this ecosystem. And it's compounded by our hooligans, something that we never forget. That's kind of our terminology for our team of awesome people. So we never forget that when we talk about the ecosystem that we're building. But you know, this is what our ecosystem could look like as we include manufacturers as part of our community as well, not just what you would consider a traditional merchant. So one of the things that we talked about earlier was making it practical. Like how have we actually helped a D2C brand that wanted to get really, really deep with their consumers? So we have a little case study with Sennheiser, a brand that should be familiar to most of you. You know, they're accustomed to dealing with customers across different generations for 70 years now, right? But it's reaching out to that younger demographic that was key for them, right? They wanted to understand and shape some new trends. And in order to do so, they decided to work with us for their online store specifically to reach that younger demographic. It's a group that tends to look at Sennheiser's products as a little bit pricey, maybe out of reach. And if we could make that a little bit more accessible, it could certainly help them, again, specifically on their D2C channel, not on any other channel that they operate today. What did they see? Well, in 5 months, about 30% of their sales via hoolah. They've got more consumers completing the basket purchases, an increase in their web traffic directly from our store directory. So they're tracking source of traffic, and they're seeing a meaningful amount of traffic now flowing through from our store directory. And of course, the real deal, right? An 80% of increase in GMV. So the numbers really do speak for themselves when it comes to the upside that a direct-to-consumer strategy can get from hoolah support. We've talked about this already, just some of the places or areas that we really help our partners with, or whether that's a merchant manufacturer, getting that inherent demand without, you know, heavy discounts, more customers through the checkout flow, the increase in basket size, and of course, loyalty and driving more customers back into that checkout flow in the future. You know, we can help solve a multitude of problems that a brand new direct-to-consumer type of manufacturer could face. But of course, it doesn't forego the fact that they really do need to invest in that business as well and going down this path. There's a couple other slides just on, you know, we make it really easy. There's a lot of strong technical differentiation of our business. But I think the piece that we were alluding to earlier was really around how do you make it happen, right? How do you go from just B2B to direct to consumer? There's a lot of work to be done here to actually bring it to life, but technology can make it a lot easier. And to make this pivot successful, you've got to really think about, make use of the insights that you get from going direct to consumer, right? You've got a new order kind of journey for your customers. collect those data points, understand those data points, derive the insights, build better products, build better checkout flows as a result of what you learn. You're now in control. Take control and use it to get smarter about running your business and building your strategy. The second one is, yes, utilize fintech, right? If you can use a multitude of fintech solutions to get a D2C model operating more simply, that's something that you should certainly do. It helps you access more customers as well. And the last one where I'll end with is, how do you invest into your people? Because the right staff and talent are going to be required for you to go down the path of D2C. This means that existing staff might be cross-trained to handle orders, payments, billing, and of course, something really new, consumer support, right? Direct consumer support. This is an opportunity, but it's also a place where you can suffer if you do not invest in the right talent that can deal with this customer engagement. Bring in the right folks, invest in it. When you have those positive customer engagements, you will see the ROI on the back of it. But it's not a place to skimp on when it comes to training or even just resourcing. It also means not just focusing on manufacturing anymore, right? You've got sales, customer service, and experience. So training is going to be really, really critical for this successful pivot. I think, I wanted to leave it on that because it's probably a place that gets overlooked quite a bit. And of course can take some questions at the end of the complete session around how we've approached some of this, because we kind of operate a business that is B2B in a lot of ways with the merchants and manufacturers we work with, but also very much B2C when it comes to engaging our end consumers and providing support to them as well. That's it. Please do get in touch if you've got any other questions or follow-ups, and of course do check out the hoolah app when you get a chance as well.